Welcome back to the FanSpeak Network. I am Meg. You can follow me on Twitter at Megs08DFS. And of course, this is another Friends of Best Ball episode. And today, my friend of Best Ball is Justin Herzig from Establish the Run. You've probably seen his Best Ball boardroom, which is awesome. I'd love to hear more about that. He's got a lot of other cool things going on. You can, of course, follow him on Twitter at Justin Herzig. Justin, thank you so much for joining me. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Meg. Thanks for inviting me. And we are 2 weeks out from the regular season.
I know. Countdown is on.
It's crazy. For me, that's actually the off season. The regular season is right now. Like, this is the playoffs. This feels like the championship. I feel like I'm grinding so many drafts and everything. And then we actually get a little calm, and I just can't wait till sit there on a Sunday, 7 hours commercial free. I mean, that's what we're all waiting for.
That's exactly. And just let it shake out. Let it all play out. I heard you on another show talk about you have total between the three sites, approximately over 1,000 drafts. Am I right on that?
I think that's probably right. I counted, I don't know, probably a couple weeks ago, I think it was 925. I've definitely cleared the 1,000, and it's a grind, but I love it. And I'd be lying if I didn't say I'm a little burned out, but that happens every year. But
exactly.
Can't slow down now. We got to keep going.
No, 15 days left. Exactly.
This is when the casuals are joining us. This is when we can take advantage of some of those scared drafters because they don't want to touch Josh Jacobs, all the good stuff.
I was going to say, I have to ask before we jump in a draft, what is your favorite time to draft? Month, week, whatever. What's your favorite?
It's got to be right now. Ignoring the kind of just burnout aspect. I mean, this is when I think if you are paying attention, there's just a lot of noise that people are grasping onto that I think, doesn't maybe matter. And then there's stuff that people are scared of and drafting a little kind of safer. And there's opportunities and edges there. And so for me, I think this is also where you get the most casuals in. And so, hey, you may lose a stack because someone is drafting that doesn't really understand the values of stacking. So they take your unstacked QB, but also they're the ones who are reaching for their players, are the ones with poor roster construction. You'll get higher advance rates, in my opinion, if you're drafting around this time. So this is definitely where I like the most.
Okay. Awesome. Well, of course, we need to check all your content on Establish the Run, the Best Ball boardroom. What else do you have going on right now? I know you released something just in the last day, right?
Yeah. So just yesterday kicked off a new podcast in partnership with DraftKings. And so it's called the DraftKings Football Show. We're just going to do week by week, try to keep it to around 30, 40 minutes. And I know that hey, there's a lot of content, a lot of podcasts out there, but my goal for this is really just give me these 30, 40 minutes and it's going to get you prepared for that weekend. And whether it's your DFS, whether it's talking through the best ball, whether it's for Rainmakers, obviously in partnership with DraftKings. So fantastic to have them aboard there. But yeah, had a great first episode yesterday. I think if you just search for my name, Justin Herzig, and DraftKings in the podcast channels, you'll find it. Would love to hear any feedback, and appreciate checking out.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously be sure to follow Justin at Justin Herzig on Twitter. All right. Well, then I'm going to pull in Underdog and we are going to get drafting here. And I'll ask you some strategy questions as we go, depending on where our picks at. I always kind of like having that break. I'm really liking the 10 through 12. What's your favorite pick number right now?
Year in and year out, it's almost always number one. For me, there's just normally the largest gap from an individual position basis, 1 versus 2, than you're ever going to have the rest of the draft. And this year, I think it's no different. I think Justin Jefferson's the tier above Jamar Chase. So if I can get that one, you then also get the value of knowing that you can get later stacks and you're not going to get caught where, I drafted hoping a player would fall to me. I know, no, I can take this stack, build that wide receiver immediately. So that's that. Now, if we ignore the 1, because I think that's a little kind of cheating, I think right now my favorite's actually 7. Because
7. Okay.
I can often take Austin Eckler, and I have Austin Eckler actually in the same tier as the CMC, Tyreek, and Cooper Kupp. So if I can start there on the come around back, in a second, there's now you're kind of at the right side of the tier where maybe you get a Devontae, a Garrett Wilson, a Saquon Barkley, a Tony Pollard. Maybe it's Jalen Waddle that falls to you before I think that next tier drop. And then the beauty of it right now, you can grab someone like Josh Jacobs in the 3rd, who I think, assuming Josh Jacobs is returning, which that's what we're kind of hearing, there's a little smoke. I think Josh Jacobs on Underdog should be being drafted right above Derrick Henry. So right in that kind of pick 20. And if you're getting him at pick 31, which I think it would be 31, 32, that's just fantastic value.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
We got your favorite pick.
Yeah, we got 10 through 12. And the reason is I am, I've been trying to analyze my exposures every day. I need more like guys like Amon-Ra, Nick Chubb, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson. I feel like that's just kind of a sweet spot for those guys. And so that's kind of at this point of the year, just wanting to bump up the exposures to those guys. Who would be your favorite? Obviously, we got to see where the board falls, but in a perfect scenario, who would be your favorite pick at the 10 spot now that we know what we have?
Yeah, so I believe that, as I mentioned, like the Austin Eckler is like the end of the 7. Then I think you have Stephon Diggs kind of by himself at number 8.
Right.
After that, I think it's very flat. You could tell me A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tony Pollard, Saquon Barkley, maybe even Garrett Wilson. Like, I think that is all a coin flip. So that's where, like, in this area, I kind of just try to, like, see how the draft falls. Hopefully we get an Eckler. Hopefully we get a Stephon Diggs or Travis Kelce. Things get a little crazy.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'm happy to, like, hey.
That happens this time of year, too, where just, you'll get a faller, too. So, okay. Well, then we'll see what shakes out here at the 10 spot. I know you talk a lot about week 17 correlation. I have to ask you, what is your outside of the Chiefs Bengals, which is a pricier game to stack up? What is your favorite game to stack, and what is the game you have the most kind of stacks of?
Yeah. And so I'll start with this to preface by, I don't really think of these are the stacks that I'm trying to target.
Right.
Because most of them, that kind of price is already baked into the team's season long aspect. It's why Kansas City, Cincy is so high.
Right.
And then the other side, you get like Jets, Cleveland, where like, we don't think that's going to be a great game. We're a little concerned about weather and such, but like, I like both of those teams. So I'm not going to fade it just because of that. Right. But if I had to give an answer for an underrated one, I'd probably say Las Vegas and Indy, just because I think like those are players, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs. I've got a ton in my portfolio. I also love me some Anthony Richardson. And I think that's where we could see that be just a shootout style game amongst like cheap pieces, that if you get that shootout right, you can then complement that with the other elite guys that it works out. And I am getting excited. Yeah. Can't believe that just happened.
You want to go Austin Eckler? I mean,
Let's do it.
We just talked about it, and he fell right there. And I'll tell you, one of my favorite teams. I'm big on like team stacking, and I do obviously consider the playoff correlation, week 17 correlation. But I love just stacking up teams. And one of the teams that I have tried to get the most exposure to is the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm very, very bullish on them this year. So we're coming back around. Nick Chubb and Amon-Ra did just go, two of my favorite guys. We've got Barkley there. We've got Garrett Wilson there. We've got Devontae Adams there. Tony Pollard. What are you thinking with our second pick?
Yeah, I think it makes sense to not go running back in this situation because we grabbed Eckler early on. Right. You just kind of pigeonhole yourself a bit where it's like,
then you can't take the falling value. Right. And Barkley did just go. I do love Pollard, but Barkley just went. So what are you thinking? Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, Jalen Waddle?
I think either of those two are the clear choice. I prefer Devontae a little more than Garrett, but if you want to, from your exposure, from your interest, I'm good with either of them.
Actually, I do need a little more Garrett Wilson, so I'm going to go ahead. Go ahead. I've been analyzing it, and there are certain ones this time of year where, not that I wasn't trying to get him, but there were certain guys like Garrett Wilson or Amon-Ra St. Brown where they were just in a certain range that I just didn't get enough of early. And especially, I'm very, very bullish on the Lions as well. So I'm really, really been trying to get a lot more Amon-Ra St. Brown and Lions stacks as well. So what game, you talked about that being an underrated game. What game outside of the Chiefs Bengals do you think you have the most exposure to?
Probably Baltimore, Miami.
Love it.
I am very, very overweight on Baltimore. Lamar's like, I think my fourth highest owned QB. From a wide receiver, Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman are both like, I think, top 7 owned of my wide receivers. I'm not really big on elite tight end, but I do have a decent bag on Mark Andrews. That's just one. And we literally saw that game last year
Yeah, it was
turn
like
into a
3
ridiculous
last year,
blowout game.
42 to 44 or something ridiculous. Yeah.
And it's the way, like, one thing, so when we think about the Chargers, we like someone like Keenan Allen. We like something like Austin Eckler. We like it because of a volume perspective. Now, yes, they played the fastest last year, more than 2 snaps per a game than any other team. Kellen Moore comes in. We expect him to continue that fast pace. But when you're stacking it, you want to be kind of a little careful of, in a 1-game sample size, Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen, they probably inversely correlate a tiny bit just because they both get there on volume. Someone like Mike Williams or Quentin Johnson can get there on, hey, deeper balls. And so, like, you got to be a bit more strategic. When I think of the Miami and the Baltimore, there's just so much explosiveness opportunities in there where both Tyreek and Waddle can be explosive on a one instance play. We've actually seen games where they both blow up. And then on the Lamar side, whether it's actually Lamar at running back, Lamar at running back, basically, Lamar in the backfield, or Mark Andrews from just a, hey, highly concentrated, or one of these wide receivers turning into an alpha. There's a lot that I like in that team.
Oh, I love that game. Yeah. My favorite's probably Detroit, Dallas. Very attainable. Love Detroit's all domes playoff schedule, which I absolutely love. A lot of dome games actually all season, which I absolutely love for Detroit. But so that's probably my favorite. But Miami, Baltimore, and Chargers, Denver is probably right behind there. So
Detroit, Dallas, I love as well, especially if I can get the Dallas side of passing, and then the David Montgomery with maybe Amon-Ra or something on the other side. It is just such a highly stacked team that it concerns me a little. But I still love it.
So at 34 here, we do have Jacobs there. We do have, and then the receivers, of course, are Amari Cooper, Deebo Samuel, Keenan Allen. I think this actually could set up if we want to do something else here and then try to do like a Mike Williams Herbert the next round, if you wanted to really stack up the Chargers. But what are your thoughts here? Jacobs did just go.
Jacobs just went.
Lamar's there, Cooper, of course, too.
Cooper is the bring back for the New York Jets. That's probably what I would lean. I do love Lamar, and you can easily get kind of the Zay Flowers and such later on. But I'd probably go Amari Cooper and kind of make this a Deshaun Watson team. Because if you look at where Deshaun's drafted later, too, we can usually get him pretty easily. So I'd go Amari because we're just playing with that. And, hey, if you have a lower exposure to Garrett Wilson, this is a good chance to kind of, take the bring back with Amari. Yep,
absolutely. And we'll be back up again at 39. So we might as well talk that through too, because it could come quick. At 39, we could go back for a third receiver. Deebo Samuel, Keenan Allen, Christian Watson, Mike Williams are at the top of the board. And then, of course, Ramondre did just go. I wouldn't really don't have an interest in those running backs really to reach when we have Eckler. So Herbert, 37. Wow.
With the Keenan Allen. So he wanted to guarantee that.
Okay. Yep. That's right. So that's a good point to look at the board, and they just went and grabbed it. And hey, sometimes I say at this point of the year, if you're trying to, push your exposures and you want to go get your guy and get your stack, I don't hate you for it. So
I don't know how. Oof, there goes Lamar. I was gonna say I don't know how you don't take Lamar.
If he fell, he fell. Yeah. So
I go Deebo. It's just an ADP thing. It's a position of need.
I like that.
Yeah, Deebo has substantial upside as well. It also provides us with some late stack options if we needed it, if something didn't happen where we weren't able to get Deshaun or Rodgers or something. So
right. Yeah, it's nice to kind of build that in. I don't know if you could tell the Washington T-shirts in the background, but you can always build a little Washington stack as well. I have plenty of Sam House exposure and stacks, and plenty of exposure to Washington offense. I just think that's a cheap offense that you can get exposure to that could be undervalued this year.
It's a cheap offense that has a wider range of outcomes than people are accounting for. And when you have a new offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy, coming in, when you have a new, not a rookie, but a first year out there, Sam Howell, basically, there's just it could be absolute dust and horrible, and it could be actually league average from an offense standpoint. And if it is league average, those are all tremendous values right now.
Right.
Terry McLaurin obviously suffered the injury a couple days ago.
That was hard to watch. He's my favorite player. I love him, but But yeah, hopefully it's minor, but toe injuries can be nagging, and that does concern me.
Did you see the most recent quote?
Yeah, the Rivera quote today.
For the most part.
Yeah,
That,
yeah. God, Rivera on the microphone drives me insane. He talks too much. He drives
if I try to
me
paraphrase, it was
yeah.
the X-rays for the most part came back, or the MRI for the most part came back negative, which aligns to the other tests for the most part. And
Yeah,
it's like, okay, I feel like this is either there was negative or not. Like,
I know it came back negative. It came back MRI is not serious, and then he goes and says for the most part. But I don't know, who might get some falling value on Terry McLaurin. Who knows? So
I've got a ton of Curtis Samuel. I think Curtis Samuel can be used as kind of a weapon type player for BNME. Definitely can play that kind of running back position, get more sweeps. And I think he'll just be in the field a bunch.
You know who I really like? I've been talking about it more is Cole Turner. Can get him in the last round, 18th round. Logan Thomas cannot stay healthy. The guy, I mean, he's up there in age. He just is he's a bit fragile. I would say if the books would have him at like plus 2,000 to stay healthy for the season. But Cole Turner was drafted 5th round last year, athletic tight end out of Nevada. And he looked great in preseason. He looked awesome in that game. And I don't try to overreact to preseason, but he's looked like he's had a serious connection with Hal. And let's be honest, nobody's mistaking any of the Washington tight ends for Travis Kelce, but we know BNME can use tight ends effectively. Yeah. So I think that's an interesting 18th round one that may only be drafted like 30% of the time here in BBM. So,
oh gosh, 30% is, I would guess he's probably drafted.
Well, I think he's going probably
1
now.
to 3%. Yeah.
Well, now he's probably going to go 18th round, I think, because he's had 2 good preseason games in a row. So that's how I'm baking in the 30%. I'm guessing he's getting drafted now.
Can we scroll up a little? Yeah. I want to get a view because on the right-hand side, we've got a guy with 3 running backs. To the left, also 3 running backs.
Yeah.
On the left, pick 1, 3 running backs. So there are some people who are very heavy on running backs that we should just kind of keep in mind.
No, that's good to absolutely
as we go forward. I don't think anyone has 2 QBs. I don't think anyone has. Oh, one person has 2 tight ends. Pick 4 has Darren Waller and is that Kelce at the top? And pick.
Yes, Kelce and Waller. Yep.
Okay, so that's worth noting as well.
So Burrow and Fields just went. We're coming up at pick 58. So I'll go back over to the board, sitting at 1-3. The running backs available: Kenneth Walker, Alexander Madison, Pierce. Hopkins, Deontay Johnson, obviously JSN just sustained the injury as well. I'm more of a late round tight end girl. But Watson, would obviously be later if we want to get that. But what are you kind of thinking here with 1 pick to go?
Yeah, there were 3 guys that kind of jump out to me. Sure. Hopkins, Kenneth Walker, and Deontay. I do think Kenneth Walker is a bit of a good value at this
Hopkins
spot.
just went. So
and there's a teardrop after.
So you like Deontay or Kenneth Walker better here?
I think I'd go Kenneth Walker, especially because we just saw that 3 teams are already loaded with 3 running backs. And even though other teams have already said like, hey, are going fully on the wide receiver, they're going to come around at some point. So in these situations, I do like to get a little above that run on the running backs as people realize that, when another team goes 3 early, yes, they may go 3 and stop, but these also could be kind of a bit more old school and they're going to go 6 running backs. And once you start kind of loading up, we feel that pressure. So I don't hate getting who I think is the end of a previous tier running back in Kenneth Walker in that situation. Yeah, we can probably get a solid wide receiver with this next.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I still have Deontay Johnson queued up. Mike Evans just went. I love George Pickens as well from the same team for the Steelers. And then further down, obviously, very bullish on Dotson. That would be a bit of a reach, but I am very bullish on him. So who else do you like in this range, receiver or any other position?
Yeah, I think Deontay is a clear lead above the others. I'd consider, even though I don't have much of him, but like a Kittle as well, where if we were, we already have the San Francisco, we're going to most likely go with the Cleveland, which is by week 5. I could see like a Deshaun Watson, Brock Purdy combo. But I'd much rather have Deontay. So hopefully Deontay falls.
Okay. Otherwise, yeah, we can play it like that and see what happens. They took my guy. They took my guy Dotson, and and then so we're gonna go grab Make sure I'm grabbing this right. Yeah, we got Deontay. So with 6 picks in, we have Austin Eckler, Kenneth Walker, Garrett Wilson, Amari Cooper in that same game, Deebo Samuel, and Deontay Johnson. I like that start. Yeah. And obviously coming around here, have a little break until our next pick at 82. And I would assume you're thinking there maybe to target Deshaun, obviously, if he's available.
I think we'll take a look at who else is available at that time, because if you look at picks around the guys to our right, 11 and 12, they both have a quarterback, and so that means they both have a fairly elite one. One was Justin Herbert, and one is Lamar. So like if there's a player that's substantially like above value, like, hey, we want to grab, then maybe we could wait on Deshaun and gamble a little. But one other note as well with that Deontay, why I like it is we grabbed Kenneth Walker, and now we're getting a bring back immediately. Yep. So there's a mini stack, as well as if we end up going with a late Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, I love Kenny Pickett too.
Yeah, make a lot of sense together.
Yeah, he's looked good this preseason. I really think he could make a second-year leap. That offensive line kind of got beefed up in the offseason, and I think that could be huge for Kenny Pickett to make a second-year leap and love his receivers. So I'm really in on the Pittsburgh offense. So.
Nice. And I think also
someone just said everybody bullish on the Steelers. Yeah, I am.
There you go. Yeah, Coop is a local Pittsburgh boy, so he
he definitely
likes the Steelers.
He knows.
But I think with the Kenny Pickett situation, like a lot of people don't realize, but like he actually can be mobile. Like he's actually decent on the ground. We saw it in college. Didn't see it that much last year. But I think if the offense is just kind of clicking a little more, if you get a little more health in that offense, he gives you at least that kind of in-game rushing upside. I wouldn't call it as much of a floor as other running backs or as other QBs.
Right.
But
but for where he's going, he and Hal do kind of offer like both a nice little kind of a little bit of a rushing floor for where they go so late. So around the turn, there's a little run on receivers there. Pickens, Addison, Brandon Cooks, who I love a lot too. I do again love Dallas and Detroit this year.
I was just looking. Pickett is my third highest owned quarterback at 15%. So
okay. Yeah, I think that's about around I think he's around my third highest as well. As far as like QB1s, it's Dak and then Herbert. As far as like QB1s, I kind of like waiting a little bit there, but we'll see if that ultimately is the right move. And again, I like their playoff schedules as well.
Here's that running back run that we talked about.
Yeah, you called it. Yeah.
So it was good to kind of get ahead of that. But a lot of those people, so Brian Jester, that looks like it's probably his fourth running back. LNAS, that's probably his first running back. And the other two, I think, second.
Yeah, it looks like, you nailed it. Yeah. Yep. So James Cook, Cam Akers, James Conner, Rashad White, right in a row. You called the run on that. Good call. Alvin Kamara.
Kamara keeps going.
And then Gabe Davis. Okay, so let's take a look here. At pick 82, we do have a falling Miles Sanders, I will note. And then
let's queue up Deshaun just so we can get our eyes on that. And then it's a question of, do we take Deshaun, or is there a falling value that makes more sense?
What do you think of the falling?
Javonte. So you kind of we like that LAC Denver. That jumps out to me. We don't have Carolina Jacksonville built in yet. But I do think either Javonte or Miles Sanders, it's enough value that it's worth taking the risk of grabbing the running back before Deshaun. Right. And hope that the Lamar and the Herbert team don't grab him. I think.
So what do you think? Who are you leaning towards between Miles Sanders or Javonte?
I'd go Javonte just because of the Eckler that we have. In a one-game sample size, those are two guys that both catch passes that I think, we could see that helping from a Week 17 standpoint. I like Miles Sanders in a vacuum a little bit more, but like not nearly enough. This is where Week 17 I default to.
Right. And we're getting value on either of them. So, so there we go. So coming up at 87, though, I think go ahead and get Deshaun there.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then I'm just going to keep this queued up. Hopefully it holds.
Both of those grab stack partners, Quentin Johnston for Herbert, Zay Flowers for Lamar. So it looks like these are kind of on the sharper side of things.
Yeah, it looks like a pretty sharp room. I have noticed some names and then, names, badges, that kind of thing. So Antonio Gibson just went. So if Deshaun Watson isn't taken here, we will grab him. And have our quarterback stacks set there.
That sounds good to me. Does 2 Total Paul have Nick Chubb? That's probably the only thing we need to worry about. No, he does not. We're good there.
All right. Let's grab it. All right.
That worked well.
Worked out. There we go. All right. So bringing the board back up as we have a little break. That is the one nice thing about being on the ends, either the first 3 or 10 through 12. You do kind of have a break to kind of catch your breath, assess the board, like you said. Being right in the middle, you kind of feel like you're ping pong. And I always feel like I get sniped more in those situations too.
Yeah, you the one benefit I think for the middle is like you have more opportunities to get falling value just because like, hey,
that's a good point.
You could be over on the side and you see this player falling and falling and falling.
Yeah.
There might be 20 picks between you and that
there's
guy.
Nothing you can do. Yeah.
Where if you're in the middle, the most there would ever be is like 11 or 13. So it works out at a decent amount there.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. These running backs, I mean, just keep on going. I feel good about where we're looking for running back right now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it just went Sanders, David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert, DeAndre Swift at the 91st pick. So, Justin, I know you talk about correlation, stacking, week 17 correlation. What would you say this year would be maybe like an underutilized strategy that you've been using? Oh, my guy, Brian Robinson just went too.
There you go. For this year, I put a tweet out where I continue to kind of draft 2 running backs in the same backfield. I think that's still a strategy that makes a lot of sense. And we haven't seen it would probably take it happening on one of the winning either BBM or other sites teams for people to truly get behind it and kind of conceptualize the high upside of it. Mm-hmm. But if you go through the analysis, we first need to bucket kind of the running backs into 3 groups. You have traditional handcuffs. Those are more of your kind of Derrick Henry and Tyjae Spears. You have ambiguous backfields. That's probably more of like a Deonta Foreman versus Khalil Herbert, even though we think it's going to be Khalil Herbert, but like we're just not sure who it's going to be or what that role is. And then you have more of where you have 2 people who have clear roles, but maybe there's contingency upside. And that's probably maybe that's Brian Robinson, maybe Antonio
Brian
Gibson.
Robinson and Antonio Gibson. They go very close to each other too.
Right. And so what we've seen is that it does not make sense to draft the true handcuffs because other people actually do that, and that hurts and it's not, you're not gaining uniqueness from it. But the other 2 situations, the ambiguous one and the dual role ones, those actually are not actually utilized heavily. So you're getting uniqueness come playoffs time. You're not hurting your advance rate. And then in the playoffs, you get the ping pong opportunity for maybe one has a big game, but then the other one is low owned and has the big game the following week for that week 17 or keeps you going. So that's probably one that I've been trying to continue to utilize more than the field. Yeah,
I love the ping pong aspect that you talked about. Especially through playoffs. And I also like that when you stack a running back with a quarterback, obviously that worked for Kareem. Last year, we are on the clock. Sorry, it is at 106.
And Njoku's probably the easy one here just to lock up that stack.
Okay. I was going to say, anything else on the board you like? We are going to be up in like 4 or 5 picks as well.
I like other ones, but like Too Tall Paul doesn't have a tight end. And I don't think there's we'd be a little bummed if we missed out on our Deshaun Watson, David Njoku tight end stack.
Yep. So I got that. And we've got that set. And then we'll be back at 111. So we've got a 1-3-4-1 situation. I feel like looking good here. Do you want to grab another receiver? Are there any receivers you like here before it does start to kind of fall off a cliff a bit? Or are you thinking more running back or second quarterback? Any thoughts on kind of which position you like to target here?
It's a bit. So if Rashad Bateman was still here, he's probably the one at ADP that I still like. But with him gone, you could convince me on Kadarius Toney, but I really don't love it.
What about Beckham? Where do you stand on him?
Very, very little ownership. If I do take him, it's because he's correlated with Lamar. Okay. I think like running back, probably this is usually a sweet spot where there's still some kind of solid upside at running back.
Yeah, we got Charbonnet, Penny, Pirine, big, I mean, then you're starting to reach a bit.
Ooh, this isn't great for us either, because Charbonnet, we have Walker. We're already in a bit of a bye week bind with week 5.
Yeah, can't with the week 5 situation.
What's the other QB situations look like?
Sure. Yeah, we just went on the clock. We've got Geno, Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff.
And Freiermuth just went. That's what I was going to default to. I think I'd go Kadarius Toney, and it's a position of need, and it's just a bit of an ADP value, and we don't have much else.
Yeah. No, I like kind of getting that 5th receiver before kind of the cliff falls off. I feel like you can do any type of build you want, but I do like to get a receiver before kind of falls off the cliff.
I like that.
So I like that. I was starting to say my BBM finals team last year had Dak, Elliott, Gallup, and Schultz. And I do like when you team stack being able to incorporate a running back if you can, because I mean, obviously sometimes you can, but sometimes it works out with the values because of that ping pong aspect that you kind of mentioned with the 2 running backs from the same team. I also think it can work with kind of stacking up a team at different positions, including the running back. I like that a lot. And that's something I've tried to do a good bit this season.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that.
The other 2 things that I've leaned into a lot, I'm fine that we took Njoku. I've done a lot of rookie tight ends. I think this could be the year of the rookie tight end. We've been saying it on FanSpeak Network since after the draft. We do a lot of draft coverage as well. So we knew this was a good tight end class, and a lot of them got just elite landing spots. So very big on the rookie tight ends and late round tight ends in general. I do a lot of, and I know this is probably against the field, but I do a lot of 3 quarterbacks, especially more on the 20 round sites, but even on Underdog, I had Dak last year and he was hurt the first 6 weeks. My BBM finals team wouldn't have even made playoffs. And my 3rd quarterback was Carson Wentz, but because he had 2 spike weeks at the beginning of the season, that was it. I finished in the, 2nd in the pod, and I wouldn't have even sniffed the 2nd place spot had I not had those 2 Carson Wentz spike weeks after. Then he gets benched like week 6. Then he comes back for the finals and was a disaster. So maybe it's just the soft spot of what has worked for you in the past, but I can see how 3 stacks protect you and like let you ping pong your way to have 3 stacks, to give you different outs and stuff like that. So that's something I've been kind of leaning into this year.
I don't hate it. So starting with the tight ends aspect, I'm definitely a late tight end fan. But a lot of times what I end up doing is so I was heavy on Pat Freiermuth early on because I think he's just a value at where he's going from an upside that you get and attach to that offense. And a lot of times it helped me set up that Kenny Pickett stack. But if you grab an Njoku, if you grab a Freiermuth, you can then wait to the very end and grab 2 tight ends late and still feel pretty good about getting a combination of kind of median with some spike opportunity.
Right.
And so I know some people are it's a black or white where it's I'm either going early or I'm going very late. But I mean, when we were looking at who's available at this tier, if you compare the wide receivers here to the wide receivers that are going 2-3 rounds later, it's really not that much of a difference. And so, I mean, if you want Laporta, you got to take him this next pick. If you want,
which I have a ton of Laporta,
right. These guys just moved up a bunch more recently hey, while these late darlings we've been loving have moved up, it's more of an opportunity now to say, okay, maybe I'll actually now spend a little more, a round or 2 more, and get the more established ones like a Pat Freiermuth or someone, or especially an Njoku if you have Deshaun Watson. And your marginal cost in the current draft landscape isn't that much.
Right. And then you can do 2 late.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, makes sense.
We still have so many Hayden Hurst, Hunter Henry.
Oh yeah,
are still going around 280.
Right. Yeah, I love Musgrave and Ferguson. They're both been rising
up a
high,
little, but still,
so you can get them in usually the 170s. Okay, so we're coming up at 130 and 135. Coming around here. I don't know if you wanted. Well, I guess if we wanted to consider, we could consider Purdy or Pickett later. So I don't think we need to look quarterback here, but and I know you don't like stacking guys from the same game because I know Rodgers is there. But
can we click on Rodgers wins? That gets rid of that idea anyways.
Okay.
Who are the wide receivers? I do like. I think Jacoby's kind of a standalone here. Rashee Rice. And And then, so what are the QBs real quick?
Goff, Wilson.
What about,
Goff.
let's grab, this will be reaching on both, but if we go Russ here, and then we can go Marvin Mims with the next one, which is a tiny bit of a reach on both, but we already have Javonte, we already have Eckler, and like it's not a substantial reach on either, but it allows us to build. Now we kind of have two legitimate game stacks going.
Yep.
One
like
with this Denver LAC, which you mentioned you like, and then one
I like
is
a lot.
the Cleveland Jets, which we just have the elite plays in.
Right. Okay, I love it. Yeah, let's grab some. Hopefully, grab some Mims here at 135. So,
and that's one of those where that's like, as I mentioned, where you've got to take into account like, will my stack get broken with these 4 picks? And oh wow, he did.
Okay, so
that's an unfortunate one because there's
Dulcich
not really
has been falling. Yeah, he's been falling. Dulcich, you could get Dulcich later. He's been falling.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. Okay, so we got 2, 3, 5, 1 with 1 pick to go. Jacoby Myers is there. The top of the running back board, top of the receiver board.
I'd go Elijah Mitchell. I think Elijah Mitchell he's become a value because of this injury that's kind of sidelined him, and then the focus and we get 2 9s, 2 5s. We'll probably take one more like very late running back or something.
Right.
Unless you have a love for Jacoby, but
no, I don't have a love for Jacoby, so we're good.
So the Elijah argument is he's been falling simply because of this earlier injury. While he's been injured, the conversation has then been who's going to be playing ahead between Mason and TDP. And while like that's to determine who's going to get first snaps in preseason games because Christian McCaffrey's not playing in preseason, like that's been the attention. People have kind of, I'd say convoluted that into, oh, this is who is going to be number 2. They're going to surpass Elijah Mitchell when I think as long as Elijah Mitchell is healthy, which, hey, he's had some injury issues, but as long as he's healthy, he's a Shanahan guy. He's actually a good football player. He can actually catch passes. There was a comp. We've seen him have years of football, so it's fine. But there was even a comp last week where like he looked like Christian McCaffrey over the middle of the field catching passes. Yeah. So I believe that Elijah Mitchell has great standalone value just because of how good that San Francisco offense is, especially on the ground. Yeah. But if CMC were to get hurt, I think Elijah Mitchell can actually, while he's not catching 8+ balls, can still increase his role to 4 or 5 catches a game. And like, that'd be a huge opportunity for him.
Yep, absolutely. I think that makes a ton of sense. So we are back up at 154, 159. What's your thought? I took a lot of Dulcich earlier, and then now these reports have kind of scared me off about what his role will be with Russ. What are your thoughts on Dulcich if he falls there in the 150s?
I'm pretty much a complete fade.
You're fading Dulcich. Okay.
I think the risk of him not even being a starting tight end is just substantial, that it's not worth taking a chance on a tight end at that spot.
Yeah. And the nice thing, and I'm fine. Again, I took my shares early and I'm kind of like definitely pumping the brakes on him and actually plenty of others that I, probably took too much early and now not as interested on. He's one of them. So that's fine. And we have Javonte, which I talked about, the quarterback running back, and Javonte's catches plenty of passes.
Agreed. Russ and Javonte, for all the QB running backs, it's not a bad combo. I may give take a little mea culpa in that maybe we could have projected that this 12 spot would have taken Marvin Mims because we know he's the Justin Herbert team. He'd already took multiple stack partners there. Hard to project. I still don't hate it.
No, I think it was worth setting it up. I like the idea. And again, I love their playoff schedules in general, to hopefully get us to the finals.
It would have been a gutsy play to have gone Marvin Mims first.
Yeah.
Knowing that he already had 2 QBs, so probably wouldn't have taken Russ. The other guy only had 1, but like, I don't think he had any Broncos. We could have checked to see if that Cortland Sutton. I don't know. That would have been a tough decision, but maybe.
Yeah, well, I like how you guys did like the pyramid of what to think about when you're on the board, and you can see how your mind works. Not only are you thinking about what to think about, as you're drafting and making your decisions, but you're like, having to really, kind of, you're playing chess with the people you're in the room with and seeing what they're doing and stuff like that. Yeah. So, anyways, we are at 154. It's coming up in a couple picks. I'll get Dulcich out of the queue. So at 2, 4, 5, 1, what are you thinking here, position wise, or what are you liking on the board? Tell me whatever you would like me to highlight.
I think we need to hammer some wide receivers here because we've already said like, hey, we're going to wait on tight end towards the end. Sounds good. DPJ is probably the one that jumps out to me. Maybe for the second one, again, it's a reach, but I love Jaden Reed.
I was gonna say I love Jaden Reed as a player.
Let's do Jaden Reed first.
Okay.
And they're both slight reaches here, but kind of any of the wide receivers are in a position of need.
I was gonna say who.
Cleveland, Denver.
What's your take on the Damian Harris falling value? Are you just staying away from that?
Honestly, I'd go Damian Harris here if you wanted. Let's do that. I like that. That's just a lot of value. And we wanted one more running back. He gives us a different bye week.
Yeah, we want one more running back, and now we can just be done. And I feel like he's a solid one. I still believe at the falling value. I mean, he was going in the 110s, 120s.
No, that's a good call. That was a good call.
So, I still believe he's going to be RB2. If I'm wrong, that'll hurt.
Hey, this team looks like it's a Hunter Henry style team. So we can, or a late Devontae Parker. So we can get that kind of bring back for the Buffalo. I would put DPJ above Jaden Reed here just from the stack aspect.
Okay.
Let's make sure we're not in like any kind of bye week trouble with.
So receivers, we have 7, 5, 9, 6, 10.
Just the Cooper one. That's good.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's it.
And no Minnesota. So we're not working towards like a Green Bay,
no
Minnesota aspect. So I like Jaden Reed. The stack for Donovan just makes a lot more sense for us.
Okay. Sounds good. Yep. We got that all set. And then we'll be at 2, 5, 6, 1, kind of like you said, done at running back, which is nice. And then we can see what shakes out the rest for if we wanted a third quarterback, like if Pickett or Purdy fell, and then the receiver, tight end, late round tight end situation. So, all right, one pick till we're up, and then we can grab DPJ hopefully, and then take a look at the board.
Sounds good. What are our wide receivers once more?
So we've got Garrett Wilson, Amari Cooper, Deebo Samuel, Deontay Johnson, and Kadarius Toney.
So pretty solid wide receivers.
That's a good
through.
That's a good room.
I think it's almost a lock that we go 3 tight ends.
Yes. I would.
So we're at 2. We're done with running back 5, 7, 3. So it's 2, 5, 7, 3. Then we get one luxury pick, which can either be another wide receiver, which is my slight lean, or if we feel that there is a great QB stack partner and you wanted that third QB.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would say like if a Purdy or Deontay, or excuse me, Purdy or Pickett fell, it's weird. Lately, I've seen Pickett go way ahead of ADP, and then sometimes I've seen him fall. So
I've seen him not drafted in a draft. I was stunned. Like
recently? Wow.
Past few weeks. Yeah, it was one of those crazy ones where it was like, it doesn't make sense for me to take him, but I just can't imagine like he's still falling. But again,
that's wild.
I like him a lot, and agreed. There's just sometimes some wonkiness where people are like, no, I like my QBs. I don't need another QB, and
It just really depends on the room. I've seen the same thing, obviously, since I pay attention to Hal. I've seen the same thing with him lately, where he'll go way past or way early, and so some guys like that are just going to have
I streamed a DraftKings draft, and Sam Howell went in the 3rd round.
I'm guessing that was a little bit of a Q error, maybe, or is my burner account?
Yeah, there you go. Oh, there goes Pickett. It was a weird one because they only had like 1 or 2 weird picks. Everything else was normal, but I'm curious, like
that's interesting.
What do you? Because it wasn't. I don't think it was a McCaffrey team. I think it was just like a random couldn't figure out what the correlation was and why they would have put in the queue, but it must have just been a Hal fan and we're waiting for it.
A Hal fan, yeah, I guess. I mean, I've made queue errors where I've done it and not reorganized and then taken somebody way too early, but that is quite early.
Yeah.
So Pickett and Hal did just go. Is Purdy still there? I believe Purdy
is still available, I believe. Yeah. So that would be the one, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, we'll be up at 178 and 183.
Yeah, I think my lean against the third QB is that we're pretty like game stacked with both of these.
Yep. Yep.
And like there's a decent amount of capital that like Deshaun Watson, we're
Yeah.
playing for that
Right.
ceiling outcome with him where
Right.
if he's not going to provide us like top 7 QB, then this team's probably not going to make it anyways. And like a third QB wouldn't have helped us.
Right.
And then if he is going to have that top 7, have the rushing that we're hoping for, he then actually provides us a solid floor each week with the rushing that it's hard for kind of a late QB to provide substantial value.
Right. Right. So Jaden Reed is still there. I don't know if this is going to hold.
One more pick.
Yeah. And then I was just going to throw in a couple of the tight ends that I like. Well, a lot of the ones. He just went. Okay.
I think Gerald Everett's a great one.
Yep. Okay. That's a no-brainer to me. Obviously fits the stack, and I love the Chargers.
Yeah.
and great value on them too. My God.
Yeah.
To get Gerald Everett at 178. That's insane.
Ooh. You know that pumpkin or that number 12 was hoping he was going to fall to him with that Charger stack.
Oh, yeah. No, we're on it. We got it.
That's for the Marvin Mims that you took.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so maybe it's as much as I love Jaden Reed, maybe it's a little blessing that Jaden Reed got taken right there. So up in 3 picks. I mean, I have Hunter Henry Q. It would be a little early, but tight ends are going. And then, these are the receivers we're kind of looking at.
Yeah, I'd probably go Jalen Hyatt just from an ADP standpoint in a position of need. If not him, Devontae Parker is that bring back that we talked about to the Buffalo. Who else do we have a little down? There's not much.
Slayton, there. Renfro, James Hardman.
I'd probably go Hyatt. Is there another tight end that's been falling that we wanted as our third? Dawson.
No, unfortunately. Okay.
Jalen sounds great.
Okay.
Position of need, falling value definitely is the type of player that has weekly upside.
Okay. Yeah. So we got a 2.572. So you're thinking this will probably be a 2.583. So one more receiver, one more tight end, right? Okay.
I think so.
Okay. Yeah. And to speak to the tight ends, like that, the late round tight ends that I love that are just going way earlier. I mean, Luke Musgrave went 169. Where did Ferguson go?
Right.
Oh my God, 147.
Even Juwan Johnson's moving up a little.
Yeah, 149. So yeah, Chig 160. So yeah, I'm really glad we got Everett where we did. That was awesome.
Yeah, Chig is the one tight end who I think since DeAndre Hopkins signed, people kind of gave up on Chig, thinking like it was a volume play, and just he's been free falling. But what they've mostly been ignoring is that he's actually been on the field substantially more than he was last year. And there's no target competition from a tight end standpoint. So while he may have lost that volume to DeAndre Hopkins, their new signs are that he's going to play a clear role and almost an every down role in this offense. And that's not being accounted for. So I have been drafting a little more Chig after mostly fading him for the offseason.
Yeah, I was while we have a little bit of a break here before our last 2 picks, I talked about the rookies, tight ends that I loved. And, Ferguson, we talked about Hunter Henry. Outside of Chig, any other late round tight ends that you've really been high on lately?
Yeah, so I mean, I think Hayden Hurst and Hunter Henry are my 2 highest owned players, actually. Definitely 2 highest owned tight ends. And for me, it was just all off season. I've been going mostly on the late tight end. I've been avoiding trying to guess who the number 2 running back is in backfields. I've been mostly trying to guess which wide receiver is actually going to get the playing time and such. And instead just taking the bird in the hand of, I know that Hayden Hurst is going to be the primary de facto every down tight end. I have confidence that Hunter Henry is going to play the tight end role. I'm not scared of Mike Gesicki. And then as we get more and more camp reports that the rapport, he's his favorite touchdown target, just been kind of hammering those 2. Now, unfortunately, that means I'm a little lower on the Musgraves and the Ferguson. I think Musgrave, I'm still overweight. I'm 12%. Ferguson, I'm a little lower because I was kind of more scared of Luke Schoonmaker.
I'd taken Schoonmaker right after the draft, and then that didn't really work out. But
and then Ferguson also skyrocketed so quickly. So like I missed a little of those values, but like I still feel really good about those Hunter Henry, the Hayden Hurst ones. But as we were talking about the Chig, that's a player that I was ignoring that part of the draft for tight ends early on, but also now he's moved back and the guys we liked have moved forward. So it's now I'm more willing to kind of say, okay, this is a good time to be drafting someone like Chig.
Yeah. And a couple quick points. I queued up Hurst because you mentioned him. He just went. Hunter Henry is still there. So you want me to go ahead and grab him?
Yep, I'd say take Hunter Henry and then our next wide receiver. Yeah.
So I think that's a good situation. So we've got at the top Renfro, Richie James, McCole Hardman, Claypool, Woods, Palmer does correlate. Puka, Josh Downs, Calvin. I mean, you're taking a flyer
after that.
Yeah, there's flyers I like.
Hunter Renfro. I think is a tier above the rest of these, so I'd start off there.
Just out of curiosity, just because I've taken him some. What's your take on Corey Davis in the Jets offense since it correlates?
Yeah, I mean, I end up grabbing him, and like I'd probably go Mecole Hardman above him here, just because.
Right, I was gonna say he's there too. Yeah. I've taken more Corey. I feel like he could be the deep threat for Rodgers, but thoughts between these three? Do you want to go Hardman because it correlates, or do you think Renfro stands out that much more?
Do we have?
I was gonna say week 7 bye. We just have
Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, we just have the week 7 Garrett Wilson, Hunter Renfro. No Indy, no.
We don't have any Indy. I think this is an example where if you think of the pyramid, the player take from me on Hunter Renfro is just that much better than the correlation for the Corey Davis, Mecole Hardman. If this was a primary stack, if we grabbed Rodgers, then I would have gone with one of the Jets.
One of the Jets, gotcha.
But for here, from a player take wise and just confidence in that role, as well as like Hunter Renfro's best season way surpasses either Corey Davis or Mecole Hardman, probably if you even combine them. So we've seen it before. There's some overall ambiguity because it's a new, with a new quarterback there. So I think Hunter Renfro just as a player take is a tier or two even above Corey Davis and Mecole Hardman.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we got back-to-back hunters to finalize our draft. And I do have to point out that Brian Jester, guy, took Cole Turner 17th round. So look out. I think we're going to get some 25%. The rest of drafts, he's going to be 17th, 18th round guy. So if you have any San Francisco stacks that you need a run back, I'm telling you, Justin, Cole Turner might be your guy.
I'm definitely going to be looking more into that. That is not someone who has been on my radar. Thankfully, I've been off Logan Thomas, mainly just the age and injury. But
I kind of regret my early shares on him.
I do like the idea of a tight end for Eric Bieniemy. So I'm
and a young one and a young athletic one at that too. Well, let's just review our team really quick, and then we can head on out of here. So again, we did a 2-5-8-3 and did have a very well correlated team. So we have Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Austin Eckler, bringing back in the Broncos Chargers stack, Kenneth Walker, Javonte Williams, of course, in that Russ stack, Elijah Mitchell, Damian Harris, Garrett Wilson, Amari Cooper in that week 17 game, Cleveland Jets, and then Deebo Samuel, Deontay Johnson, Kadarius Toney, Donovan Peoples-Jones from the Browns, Jalen Hyatt, Hunter Renfro, and David Njoku, of course, from the Browns, Gerald Everett in that Chargers Broncos stack, and Hunter Henry, which was a run back to the Damian Harris share that we picked up too. So, yeah. So what are your thoughts on how we did?
I like it. It is a fairly balanced team, which is something I usually don't end up with. And I actually try to steer away from just because I'm like, hey, I kind of want to lean into 2 or 3 roster positions and go light elsewhere. But the way that I think actually when you go with like a Deshaun Watson in that 8th, 9th round, then you go with an Njoku, it kind of provides you that more balance immediately because you're like, okay, I've got this middle of the tier QB, I've got this middle of the tier tight end.
Right.
But I mean, honestly, I think it's a pretty solid team. I love that start that we, that late Eckler, Garrett Wilson, and then Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
And we kind of built around those, like, when you can build 2 game stacks around your first 3 picks,
right,
I think that's awesome. So not only do we have these game stacks, but in the case that those games kind of turn into shootouts, it's highly likely we have some of the most important pieces.
Absolutely. We got some nice falling value too, I will note as
Very
well.
True.
Both early and late. Like I'm still shocked, honestly, by the Gerald Everett fall to 178 or whatever.
Yeah,
so
that was crazy.
So this was very fun, Justin. Hopefully we got a winner on our hands here, and we can split the $3 million.
I love that.
So that sounds like a plan to me. So labeling all the drafts, I'll be sure do the auditing, and we'll just split it up. But
we'll be sweating throughout the season. I love it. And hey, when that Cleveland, New York Jets, when that Denver LAC come week 17, we'll be edge of our seats.
Absolutely. That's what I like. Well, anyways, thank you guys so much for joining us. Before you get out of here, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the FanSpeak Network. Check out our content, which is free over on fanspeak.com. We're going to be having strategy articles. We've had it all summer. We'll continue to have it leading right up until drafts are wrapped up in the next 15 days. Be sure to check out Justin's work over at Established to Run, and of course at Justin Herzig on Twitter. Justin, thank you so much again. I can't thank you enough for joining me.
I appreciate it, Meg. This is awesome. Well done with the draft, and appreciate you reaching out, hosting me, and let's get that shmoney.
Let's get it. All right. Thank you guys for joining us, and I will see you next time.